Hey, welcome to the welcome video for language science, SHS 367. One thing that's different about this class that you might not be used to is that this is a podcast-based class. So the reason why I've done it this way is because a lot of you are non-traditional students. You work, like you already have a job and you're just changing careers. Or you've got other duties in the home. A lot of you are parents, so you're not like my on-ground, in-person students where you're just a full-time student. Some of you are, of course, but most of you are not. And so this is made to be something that you can listen to while you do your work, or drive on a commute, or anything like that. Doing the laundry, whatever. The videos I usually make for almost all my classes, I know that they're somewhat restrictive. A lot of things, a lot of topics are difficult to get around when you don't have a video. It just so happens that language science doesn't really need a lot of video. We can have it, but it doesn't 100% it's not 100% necessary for everything. That said, for each episode or lecture, which there's usually 2 lectures per week, there's a couple pictures for each one that are in like the show notes or lecture notes, whatever you want to call them. Take a look at those before you listen to each episode, and then listen, and then look at them again once you know what they're referencing. There's probably like 2 or 3 just images for each one. And that's pretty much all you need to know. A lot of it is really just like knowledge-based kind of stuff. There are still PowerPoint slides because I know that not everybody is just an auditory listener. So for people that like to see the things that they're looking at, there's slides. You can get everything without it. The first thing I did was I created the video version. The audio version. The first thing I did was create the audio version. So everything is in the audio version. If you can learn that way and you feel comfortable with it, then you should get everything that way. Just look at the pictures, listen to the audio, and then look at the pictures again. You're okay. And you can use the PowerPoint slides for studying. If you don't learn that way very well, what I would do is just listen to the lecture and follow along with the slides, and it's like a regular video lecture. So it should be the best of both worlds. Where can you listen to this? There's 2 places you can listen to this. If you want to do it like a video lecture, all the audio's on Canvas, so you can just turn it on and then go to the slides and look through. Easy. If you are a podcast person, it is free, of course, on a free podcast player called Castbox. When you download Castbox, they've changed the settings. When I first used Castbox, it was like really obviously free. There was no, I don't know what you call it, like a premium version or whatever. It was all free all the time. Everything's free. It's still free. But they want you to pay for the premium version, of course. And so when you download it, they've got these really annoying screens that come up. The first one is going to be like, look, we've got a lot of podcasts. And then you say, whatever, I don't care. Continue. And then they're going to say, like, we have a ton of things that we want you to do, like listen offline. You can do it or not. There's a not now button that's hard to see. And if you click not now, they won't download stuff. You'll just have to listen online. If you want it to download, then you can do the continue thing. You can sign in with Facebook is what they want you to do. It's the big obvious one, but you can also just click not now, or you can log in a different way if you don't have Facebook, because like who likes Facebook anymore? ugh. And then here's the annoying thing. They bring this up. So what have you done so far? Down at the bottom. All your answers are down at the bottom. They have one that's like highlighted, and then they have other options next to it. And now when you look at it, it's like 3 days free trial or these two payment options. That is not the only thing that there is. So look at this. You got continue, sign in with Facebook, but there's the login and not now at the top. And then here they only have these. There's an X. So they're just tricking you. There's an X right here. Click the X. Do not pay for this thing. It's supposed to be free. And I wish it was still just as obviously free as it was when I started using it. But of course, everybody's got to make their dollars. So they put this stupid thing on there. But just click the X. It goes away. Now you have it for free. That's good. Okay. Was there anything else I wanted to tell you about this? No. I think not. I'll see what I can do to like upload them to I don't know. Maybe I'll do a poll. See what most people already listen to. Spotify, I guess. But that's not free either. I use the free versions. You have to listen to ads. Anyway. All right. So about me. Some of you probably already know this. You had other classes with me. Or you're also in 375 right now. Maybe you just came from 205 or 310. So this is like, you already know it. But that's okay. I was born in Mesa, which is a suburb of Phoenix. Tempe, where ASU is also a suburb of Phoenix. We got a lot of burbs. And they all have names. And so that's one of them. Then I went to Hamilton High School. Local people will know this high school probably. It's in a different suburb of Phoenix called Chandler. And then I went to ASU for pretty much all of my degrees. I have a Bachelor of Science from ASU. I have a Master of Arts from ASU. And then I also have a PhD in Cognitive Science. It says psychology here, but we, as a field, have changed our name to Cognitive Science because psychology, to most people, is like you sit on the couch and you're like, hey, you feel depressed? And that's not what cognitive science is, or cognitive psychology, what we used to be called. Cognitive psychology is more of a interesting area that puts together a little bit of what you typically think of as psychology, neuroscience, biology, physics, statistics, and computational modeling. And so one of the things that we're really trying to do is like figure out memory, which is really obvious for this class. You'll see a lot of memory in here. So this is like actually what I do is look at memory. Specialize in auditory and visual perception. That's what I did. The auditory perception is how I ended up in the speech and hearing department because of hearing. But the cognitive aspects of hearing, not necessarily the audiological side of things. And then also just perception and how we move about the world. And language science really is just another branch of psychology that is related to cognitive science. Sometimes it's called cognitive linguistics or psycholinguistics. And so it's really just kind of all some aspects of the same thing. I'm also a runner. This picture right here is at one of those like mud runs. Went to with some friends. We got muddy. It was fun. I used to be an actor. And then I went to the campus radio station where I learned how to do like this stuff. So it's probably also why I decided to make this class a podcast class. Change your major often if you're a traditional student. Like, I shouldn't say that because we want to retain people. And what's great about this major is you'll get a lot of money as an SLP or AUD. So you should stay here. But if you really just not feel like, I changed my major a lot. And I ended up in a place where I really, really, really enjoy what I'm doing. And you should too. A lot of you are returning students, and you are kind of changing your major just a little bit later. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. It's a good field. It's a fun field. And you can actually feel like you're doing something worthwhile here, which I think is a big thing that a lot of us are looking for. Like, what am I doing that actually means something? Okay, so, whoops. I just dropped my phone. What do I do in my research? Because that's really what, as a person with a PhD, I don't see anybody clinically. Like as SLP or an AUD, I don't do that. I do a lot of research and teaching and stuff kind of in those domains. Well, one of the things that I do is I look at swear words, which is awesome. So what we found with that is that different phonemes are used more preferentially for swear words versus non-swear words. Particularly, and tend to be used more often for swear words. E and oo are not as often used for swear words. In fact, they're mostly used for what we call pertains, like what you use to talk to a baby or a dog, or cat. Or I have a cow, and I don't use pertains with her because she's a cow, but some people could. I could see that. Like if they, I don't know. I just talk to her like just a normal, like she's a human, which is like it has its own. That's its own weird thing, but whatever. It doesn't matter. We'll talk a lot more about this in this class. So like I kind of allude to this. I talk about these phonemes at the beginning of most of my classes if you've had them with me, so you kind of know. But this class is where we actually talk more about this, because this is psycholinguistics or language science or cognitive linguistics or, any of these names for the same thing. The dun-dun drum, or a Nigerian talking drum, is another thing it's called. That's this guy down here. He's playing a dun-dun drum. It's a speech surrogate, which means that it can replicate speech. Basically, you can drum this drum and change it in a way that it mimics speech, because the language that is used by the people who play this drum, which is called Yoruba, it's a tonal language, and because it's a tonal language, the tones can be replicated on the drum so that it conveys the same information that speech does. And the study that we did with this was we were looking at the micro timing and micro pitch changes in speech and in the drum. And what so happens is it's almost identical. They're highly correlated. So that means that people that are really good at playing the drum really are doing everything that the voice is. They're conveying the same kind of information. So it's not just like sort of a speech surrogate. It's like very tightly linked to what the actual speakers of Yoruba are doing with their pitch and intensity and timing. Another thing I do is I'm looking into finding the fourth color cone in humans. That really doesn't play a huge part in any of your lives. And then the most recent paper that I published is, I don't think I have it on here. No. So there's one over here about memory, the trajectory of thought, heavy tail distributions, and memory foraging. We'll talk a lot about memory in this class. So I do research in memory. That paper, since I put it on here, has been cited a few more times. Does it say it's been cited 6 times on there? But it just got cited like 2 more times since I made this last, which is awesome. And then the most recent thing I did was I worked with some people at Mayo Clinic, and we have been looking into how can we categorize the forgetting curve to more quickly identify and more early on people who have Alzheimer's. If we can identify people who have Alzheimer's earlier on, there's a new drug that also just was announced maybe 4 months ago, something like that. So if we can use our method to early identify, doctors can couple that with this new medication that can help stave off Alzheimer's. We can really give people a lot more time it's not curing it, but it's like prolonging the person before the disease takes over. So it's really giving people more life. It's not saving lives because, again, it's not preventing it, but it's giving people more time as the person that they want to be and that their family wants them to be also, which is good. It'd be better if we could cure it, but I think we'd all take more time if we couldn't have a cure. So I'm really, really, really proud to be a part of that. That's a really important thing that I've done. And I'm going to continue working with them throughout the semester if any like big news happens. It also pertains to this class because it's such a cognitive-based class that I'll tell you about it. But since that was kind of just published, I don't know, 2 months, we probably won't have any like huge breakthroughs in 2 months. But if we do, I'll let you know. Okay, let's talk about the class. How are things happening in this class? There are 4 exams. The lowest one's dropped. So what does that mean for you? That means all completed online. Of course they are. I think I used this same slide with my in-person students. I dropped my phone again. Sorry. Why do I keep doing this? My pants are very slippery, I guess. I shouldn't have coated them in butter. Okay. So there's 4 exams. The lowest one's dropped. What that means for you is, when I was a student, I always thought that the first exam was the worst because I didn't quite figure out how the instructor would ask their questions. And once I figured them out, like what they were asking questions about, and I can't even really articulate like how you do that, but it always seemed like that was true, then I would do better. If that's true for you, then we'll drop your first one and we'll take your other 3 and that's the grade that you'll have. The other thing is, if you do really well from the beginning, exams 1, 2, and 3, let's say you get 100% on them. Well, why would you take the 4th one? Because your lowest exam is dropped. So you don't take this and it goes in as a 0. And at the end of the semester, I drop that 0 and you have 3 100% exams. And that's your grade. So it's kind of like you cannot take the final if you do well on your other 3 exams. Of course, it's up to you. You can also go in and just see how you do in case it's accidentally higher. It can't hurt you. Taking the final can't hurt you. It can only help. That, I guess, could be said for all of your exams. Taking all of your exams cannot hurt you. Can only help. Because then you have more of a chance to drop the lowest one. If you miss any of them, that's the one that's going to get dropped. Unless you have documentation for an issue. If you have documentation for an issue, if you have to go to the hospital or something, email me. And I can let you take it later. Or there's another thing called an incomplete. Some students don't know about this, but if you have something really terrible happen, if you were in a car accident or somebody close to you, unexpectedly, something happens to them, email me. There's a procedure that we go through with the college, and you can get an incomplete. That's not an actual grade. It just is like a placeholder. And you can have anywhere from 1 month to a year to finish your classes. These are huge exceptions to the rule. So don't, like, if you're like, I don't know, I got the flu. No. You're not going to get an incomplete. You can do it. You can do it if you have the flu. But like really big things. I think we can all think of some really horrible, huge things. Let me know. And in a class of 100 people, one of you might have something bad happen. And so I just want to let you know that is an option. If again, there's like a huge life event, just not little things, it's not going to work. There's 8 quizzes. For each quiz, you have 2 attempts. What I want you to do is treat the first attempt like it's an exam. It's not going to have lockdown browser and all that stuff, but just treat it like it does. Try to take it, learn what you don't know. And then once you know what you don't know, go back in, use your notes, and get 100% on the quizzes. You should always have 100% on the quizzes. The exams, of course, are on Respondus lockdown browser, which means no, they are closed book. You can't use anything. The camera's watching you, and so don't cheat, or you'll get a 0. There's also various homeworks in the class, and these are, pretty easy. Most of them, like there's some hands-on research that you're going to be participating in, just to kind of see what these tests are like that we're talking about when we talk about like reading fluency or priming. Competitions with your family for like idioms and slang, so that should be for friends. Diagramming sentences, that's really the only one that people have trouble with of all these assignments. It should get 100% across the board. Sentence diagramming, hopefully you get 100% on the first time, but you'll get feedback and you can do it again if necessary. Okay. Exams. They're closed note, Respondus lockdown browser, and monitor. You have to download Respondus, so there's a link on how to do that in the modules. You have to have a webcam. You have to have a quiet place to take the exam. It flags me if there's any weird stuff like background noise, or you get up and leave the thing, or you're not looking at like it looks like you're looking at something that you're reading. It'll flag me. Presumably it would flag me if there's like a murderer behind you. I couldn't save you though, because it flags in real time, but what are the odds I'm going to just be online at that time? So don't get murdered. You can't go, okay, I don't like this one. So we've had a lot of academic dishonesty with the online program. And what has happened is we used to let people see the questions that they got wrong afterwards, but then people were taking screenshots and putting them online. So we made it so you have to use the Respondus lockdown browser to see your feedback. And what happened was you can't take screenshots in Respondus, so that kind of got around that. But people were just writing down the questions and putting them up on websites. So then we had to close it down. You can't see what you got wrong unless you come to office hours. So you still can, because that is the best way to learn, to see your mistakes. The best way to learn is to learn. But if you do get anything wrong, the best way is to see what you got wrong and then know what you need to change. So it's not cool that we have to do that, but that is what we have to do. So you still can come to office hours and I can show you what you got wrong. But you won't be able to just see it and review it at will. You have to make an appointment. Also, then we had some issues with people taking the exam at the same time. And so now we show the questions one at a time. And you have to answer them to go on. You can't go back. So don't skip anything. If you're a person who skips an answer because you're like, I'm not sure about this answer right now, and then you keep going, don't do that. Answer the question, because you won't be able to go back. So don't do it. Also, none of these exam questions are written in a way to intentionally trick you. I'm not writing trick questions. So usually you can kind of go with your first instinct. I guess some people overanalyze the questions, and then you can get into a way where you feel like it might be a trick. Don't overanalyze it. I'm trying to be as straightforward as possible. So there's not supposed to be any tricks in it. It's supposed to just be like an actual good gauge of what you have learned. You have 90 minutes to take it, although, of course, if you have accommodations, you'll have longer. Okay, let's take right here. Let's move over to look at the course. So this is the course. This is what you're going to be presented with. All these nightmare images that I pulled from Midjourney. And This is your home page. You can click here to look at the syllabus. You can click here to go to the modules. You can click here to go to grades. What I want you to do is use modules as your main place where you see what to do, what you're learning. It's laid out how you want it to be. So we're at a point here where this isn't open yet. But you've got all this module 0 stuff that is open. You can look at the introduction, the time zone in Arizona, which is Mountain Standard Time. We don't do daylight savings time because what is that? So dumb. Blah. Here's your Respondus Lockdown browser link. Introductions and your favorite book. What's your favorite book? Academic integrity agreement. Just don't. It's asking you not to cheat. And then a syllabus quiz. And then you go down to module 1, and it's all laid out in the way that I want you to move through it. There's an overview, the show notes. Those are the pictures that I want you to look at before you listen to it. Here's the lecture, and it keeps going. If you're using Castbox, the lecture, of course, is on Castbox, so you can listen to that while you're driving. Lecture 1 and Lecture 2, or Lecture 1B. Well, go by the name of the lecture if you're in Castbox. So Intro to Behaviorism, Chomsky, and Natural Regularity is the first one. Syntax, Semantics, and Space is the second one. Those are in the first week. And then you'll go on to Module 2. These are going to open every Monday. Well, except for the first module, it's going to open Wednesday because we're on break right now. So it'll open on Wednesday, and you'll be able to get in there and look at it. And then everything else is going to open on Monday, and everything is due on Sunday except for the very last module. We have a couple extra days at the end of the semester, so I'm giving you, I think it's 2 extra days for Module 7 and Exam 3 and the cumulative final also. So almost everything opens on a Monday, closes on a Sunday. The exception to that is this first week and the last week. Okay, so that's where I look at modules. That's how you should go through this. Okay. There's some extra credit. I'll have some research stuff that you can participate in to get extra credit. If I don't, for some reason, have research running, or any of my colleagues have research running, then I'll have just some opportunity that you can do. There should be 2 of those in the semester. There'll be 2 extra credit opportunities in the semester. We'll put it that way. And then DRC and sales. Sales stands for Student Accessibility. Man, I thought I had it this time. Oh well. Disability Resource Center is what DRC stood for, and sales is just a different version of that. You can go in person or digitally. So if you live here, you can go in person. Most of you don't live here. They have digital appointments as well. And you should go to them if you think that you could use some accommodation. A lot of these things that you might get accommodation for are dyslexia, test anxiety, auditory processing disorder, and others. I had one student who was having difficulty taking their test getting it done. And there was just questions at the end that they couldn't get done. And they said, they came up to me and they're talking about how it's crazy that all these people are done so fast. And they said they had to reread the question multiple times to make sure that they understood what it was asking them. Well, hey, that kind of sounds, I thought, like dyslexia a little bit. And so I said, you should go to the DRC. They went to the DRC. They took a test, and it turns out that they did have dyslexia. So all the time in grade school and stuff like that, they didn't have dyslexia to the point where it really hindered their ability in grade school, so they weren't identified. You can kind of slip through the cracks sometimes if you're high achieving, but it's still there. And then once you get to college, maybe you'll hit a barrier where you're like, wow, this is really difficult for me, and everybody else is just zooming by. And so what has happened is this person had dyslexia. They gave them an accommodation to get more time on the exam so that they could read the questions fully. Also a font they can install in their computer called Open Dyslexic. If you are dyslexic and you don't know about this font, Google it right now. Open Dyslexic. If you're just curious about it, pause the video, Google Open Dyslexic. It's a cool 70s looking font. It's really easy to read if you have dyslexia. Here's the thing. It never hurts to go to the DRC because if you don't qualify, nobody knows. I don't know that you went. None of your instructors know that you've gone to the DRC to see if you qualify for anything. No one does. It's just you and the person that's testing you. If you do qualify, you can get accommodations which can make the difference between succeeding and failing in your classes and your future career. And if you don't qualify, then, who cares? Nobody knows. It's fine. So you should always, if you think you could benefit from this, you should absolutely go. This class welcomes diversity. I come from a diverse background. I'm also on the College of Health Solutions. We don't call it the Jedi Council anymore. We call it the Inclusive Excellence Council. And also I'm part of the Health Policy Equity Network. Totally believe in equitable treatment for everybody, regardless of whatever situation or background. But there's not a ton of diverse topics in this class. A lot of people pretty much process language in exactly the same way, which is a cool thing about the brain, that it just works. It works really the same way. And I don't even mean just like regardless of your background as a human. I mean like we can talk about other animals, humans, primates, dogs, mice. Most things kind of work in the same way. Do they have language? No, not maybe. Maybe. Elephants, whales, some new cool research on how they may actually have, and dolphins, they may have language. Dolphins have names, unique names. It's nuts. And dogs, different breeds of dogs are a little bit smart. Well, and just individual differences in dogs. Some are smarter than others. There may be a capacity for language there. Now, can they talk? No, of course not. And like dolphins can't talk in the way that we can, but they have other ways to vocalize. So do whales, so do elephants. Dogs don't have a ton of different ways to vocalize. So it's more like their capacity to understand language than to convey it. Although body language plays a huge role for them in talking to us and other animals. So my point here is the reason there's not a ton of diverse topics in this class is because it's kind of just the basics of how the brain works, how memory works, how learning a new skill works, which is really the same for me and you and anybody else. And it doesn't really matter what language you speak, and it doesn't matter even necessarily what your species is. The brain works that way. That's why there's not a ton of diverse topics in this class. There's one lecture that I talk about how IQ doesn't really predict things very well. Working memory is a much better predictor, which we do talk about in class. Working memory is a big part of the class because IQ is pretty biased in terms of who wrote the test, and if you are a similar background to who wrote the test, you tend to do better than people who don't have a similar background. Working memory is just so weirdly abstract that everybody sucks at it. Except for people that are really smart. Well, working memory is correlated with intelligence. It's not the only thing in the game. So you tend to be smarter if you have higher working memory, but you can be really smart and have a low working memory. Or you can have a high working memory and not be very smart, but they're correlated. Okay, that's the last slide. Congratulations, you have watched your first lecture in this class. And go on to look at the syllabus, and then once you've looked at the syllabus, take the syllabus quiz. That's your first quiz. So you're going to be a decent portion of this entire week. This entire module is almost done now. So that's pretty easy. Okay, I look forward to talking to you about your favorite books, and I will see you in the next lecture.